A housekeeper's daughter becomes attached to the daughter of her mom's employers. As they separate due to an unfortunate circumstance, she vows to reunite with her childhood friend. Years later, she arrives at Greer's mansion with an intricately sinister plan. At the Greer mansion in 1987, Catherine Greer attends to her garden as her daughter, Joy, approaches her. The mom sweetly hands over a bucket of flowers for the girls' tea party. The housekeeper, Rebecca, tells her daughters, Violet and Ivy, to go upstairs, so the girls decide to play with Joy. Violet excitedly asks if she can join the tea party with the dolls, but Ivy is not thrilled. While the girls spend time together, the pool attendant enters the house and is seductively greeted by Rebecca, leading to an intimate kiss. Meanwhile, Ivy sees Ivan, Joy's father, who arrives home unexpectedly early. The house owner calls his wife, but Catherine can't hear him from the garden, so he thinks she isn't around. Then he hears a commotion and follows the sound. He's shocked upon seeing Rebecca and the pool attendant sharing the bed, so he attacks the man. However, the house owner is punched and the man leaves nonchalantly. Ivan and Rebecca argue about their affair, but the shouting catches Catherine's attention, so she hurriedly goes inside the mansion just in time to hear everything. The women throw insults at each other, and Rebecca proudly claims that she can give Ivan what Catherine can't do as a woman. Upon hearing this, the wife evicts the housekeeper and her children. All the while, the children listen from upstairs, and Ivy comments that it's happening again. Rebecca and her kids pack and hail a cab, but before they leave, Joy gives Violet her precious doll, Madeline, and a promise she'll write to her best friend. 11 years later, Violet returns to the Greer mansion and knocks on the door. She's greeted by Mrs. B, the housemaid, and requests the older woman to let her meet Joy. When the childhood friends finally see each other, they share a warm hug, making up for their years apart. That evening, Violet eats dinner with Joy and Ivan. The guest shares her plans to find a part-time job and attend a junior college. To keep the conversation going, Ivan jokingly comments that it's nice to be 20 years old, so Violet responds that it's tough, but not as difficult as when she was 8 when they were kicked out of the house. This creates an awkward atmosphere, so Joy breaks the silence by offering Violet to stay in the house. Ivan breaks the talk and summons his daughter privately to express his disagreement, but Joy insists. In the end, Violet is given Catherine's former room as it's the only space available. Once alone, the guest brings out Madeline, saying she has fulfilled her promise to bring it home. That evening, the ladies share some drinks and reminisce about their childhood, and Violet inquires about Joy's life. Her best friend informs her about Michael, her boyfriend, and their plan to get married in the fall. Joy excitedly tells her he's coming next week and will introduce Violet to him. Joy also tells her of her mother's death and how her father can't get over it, so the room remains unchanged. The following day, Ivan goes to work, and Joy looks for Violet before leaving for her tennis practice. Unbeknownst to her, the guest deliberately hides from her. Once alone, Violet sneaks into Joy's room to open her closet and read her letters from a box to learn more about her friend. Unexpectedly, Mrs. B enters the room, so she hides behind the bed. A week after, Michael finally arrives and openly woos Joy, so Ivan diverts his attention by asking relevant questions about school. However, Joy dismisses her father, and Michael reminds his girlfriend about a party later that night. Violet tags along but gets isolated and scorned by Joy's elite circle of friends. Joy becomes uncomfortable, and Violet excuses herself to go to her part-time job. Joy scolds her companions for discriminating and emphasizes that she's her best friend, but they laugh at her. Shortly after, Violet changes her clothes for her night job and packs her bag with handcuffs. She stares out the window and hears the group laughing, which doesn't sit well with her. Moments later, Michael sneaks into the house with Joy and initiates an intimate moment. Meanwhile, Violet arrives at the mansion after work, sees the couple, and heads upstairs to listen outside the couple's door. As the couple makes out, Joy refuses to continue further, so her boyfriend insults her, saying she's similar to her mother and that he understands her father's unfaithfulness. This upsets Joy, and Michael apologizes before leaving. When he goes downstairs, Violet intercepts and seduces him in her outfit. Though he refuses at first, he fails to abstain, leading to Violet pleasuring him. The following day, Joy apologizes to Violet regarding her friend's behavior the previous night. Then she confides about her bedroom concerns with Michael and her fear that she might be similar to her mom. To make Joy realize that it's not that bad, Violet confesses her bad reputation as a woman in high school, so she stopped going to school. Afterward, she goes to the kitchen and clashes with Mrs. B, who scolds her for using Catherine's robes. Then, the beautiful woman deliberately swims in the pool with her top bare since she knows Ivan can see her through his window. The man enjoys the view, but Mrs. B offers coffee, interrupting him. Later, Violet sneaks into Joy's room to read Michael's letters whenever she can, and discovers his record of using an illicit substance. Then, Jamie, Joy's friend and tennis partner, arrives for tennis practice, but Violet stops her best friend from going, telling her she's too hard on herself and she doesn't have to be so hard working to be perfect. However, Joy brushes off her concerns and leaves. Afterward, Violet returns to her room and becomes anxious upon seeing Mrs. B making her bed, since her bag of handcuffs is carelessly left under it, so she dismisses the lady. As the housekeeper leaves, Violet's pager beeps from her client Larry at her night job, so she calls him and sets a meeting time. Unbeknownst to her, Mrs. B listens outside the room. When the part-time worker returns home after her job, she sees Joy and Jamie training for the upcoming tennis competition. Violet prepares some spiked drinks for them, and when Jamie sees her, the tennis player pours more alcohol into the blender. Soon, the players get drunk, and Joy falls asleep on the chair. Michael arrives and helps her to her room with Violet, who kisses her best friend's boyfriend unbeknownst to the intoxicated girlfriend. They bump into Yvonne and lie about Joy having a headache when the father asks about his daughter. Then, they hurriedly bring the unconscious Jamie to Violet's room. Afterward, they clean up the drinks, and Michael expresses his disbelief and disappointment regarding Joy's behavior, since the competition is just weeks away. Violet lies about Joy confessing to feeling pressured about how fast everything is happening, especially regarding marriage and moving to Connecticut. She adds that Joy is cheating on him, which angers Michael as he declares he's been faithful the whole time. The woman interjects and reminds him of what happened between them, so Michael warns her to stay away. Afterward, Violet delivers Yvonne some food in his room and seduces him with words. She advises him not to avoid things he wants to do, since a bit of trouble is fine. Shortly after, Violet returns to her room and mischievously unclothes herself down to her undergarments. She cuffs Jamie, removes her clothes as well, and squeezes near the woman who wakes up. Jamie stands in disbelief, and Violet leads her to misunderstand that she and Joy share the bed with her, so the shocked woman frantically leaves the mansion. Moments later, a bare Violet swims in the pool, knowing Michael is staying on the patio nearby. The man comments about her peculiar tastes, and the woman says she didn't know he was still there. Michael tells her he needs to fix things with his girlfriend, so the mischievous woman offers a vial of illicit substances to boost him. The man declines it due to his promise to Joy, but Violet places it on the table, making Michael lose to the temptation. As he does, Violet seduces him again, and the man gladly gives in as they share a passionate night. After the deed, Michael tells Violet that nothing happened between them, leaving the woman behind. The devious woman smiles in satisfaction while putting the substance container in Michael's jacket. The following day, Mrs. B expresses her hostility by comparing Violet to a fish as she starts to smell, but the younger lady insults the housekeeper. Violet checks on Joy, who is having a hangover. Abruptly, Yvonne storms into the room, showing Michael's jacket and the substance. Because of this, he commands his daughter to end things with her boyfriend before walking out. Joy expresses her disappointment at her boyfriend's broken promise, and her friend adds fuel to the fire by pointing out Michael's track record. However, the girlfriend defends her lover and becomes torn on what to do. She also informs her best friend that Jamie is avoiding her, so Violet points out it's for the better since the athlete isn't a good person. They're interrupted when Michael's vehicle arrives, and Violet volunteers to speak with him. When she opens the door, she reminds the man of their nights together, which agitates him as he keeps denying it. He blames her for telling Joy about the substance, but the woman simply throws his jacket at him. At the same time, Joy somberly watches from her window. Afterward, Violet informs her that Michael is high on substances, so she advises her to forget him. Moments later, Joy finds a bouquet, thinking it's from Michael, but Mrs. B corrects her, saying it's for Gwen, Yvonne's love interest, and they're both glad Yvonne is finding love again. All the while, Violet eavesdrops on them. Soon, Yvonne wears his suit for his date, while Joy prepares for tennis practice. The father tells her that she will win no matter what because she's a Greer, which puts more pressure on his daughter. The moment the father and the daughter step out of the house, the phone rings. Violet beats Mrs. B to answer it, pretending it's her call even though it's Gwen, who thinks she's speaking with Joy and requests to tell Yvonne to pick her up in front of the courthouse instead of her office. Hours later, Violet wears a seductive red dress and glams herself up. The phone notifies a voice message from Gwen, who's enraged for being stood up as she waited an hour outside of the courthouse for Yvonne. Then, Yvonne returns home in low spirits with the bouquet he prepared for Gwen. He drinks his sorrows away, and Violet suggestively approaches him, saying that she went to a party which is why she's glammed up. She asks for some wine and invites the man to dance. She does her best to attract Yvonne, and when she succeeds, Mrs. B opens the main door with a pizza box. She hears the music and sees the two sitting on different chairs, but the insightful woman comments that Yvonne should wear glasses if he reads a newspaper. Afterward, Yvonne returns to his room, but Violet waits for him. She unclothes and approaches the man, making him give in to his desires. The following day, Joy chants on her trophies that she'll win today's competition. As she drives out, Michael intercepts her, asking for time to talk, so she agrees to meet in the coffee shop near campus. Meanwhile, the phone in the mansion rings and Mrs. B answers it. She discovers that Gwen has been leaving messages, so the housekeeper assures her that Yvonne didn't receive any message from her. As the housekeeper prepares to leave to speak with Yvonne, Violet intercepts her. Hours later, Michael meets with Violet elsewhere. He blames her for being removed as an intern in Yvonne's bank and tells her that he will confess everything to his girlfriend. He adds that he did a background check on Violet and discovered that she didn't enroll in college. Her sister fell out of the window, and her mother also faced a tragic ending. Upon hearing this, Violet becomes angry, but Michael continues threatening her that he also knows what kind of work she does. Therefore, the man gives her an ultimatum to leave the house before he tells Joy everything, since they will meet at 2 in the afternoon. Violet stands her ground by saying that her best friend doesn't need to meet him since she called Scott, a common friend, to pick her up at the house at 1:30. With this, Michael hurriedly drives off. He goes to Greer's mansion, but no one opens the door, so he sneaks in. He discovers Violet's paraphernalia for her night job, but suddenly the vicious woman hits his head and he loses consciousness. When he awakens, he's tied up and duct tape covers his mouth. Violet mocks him for being easily manipulated, then injects him with a substance that will overdose him. Hours later, Joy arrives home, disappointed for losing the game and for Michael not showing up. Violet blames the man for distracting her best friend and consoles her, saying the fault is on the people around her. However, Joy recognizes her mom's earrings that Violet is wearing, so she sternly requests to return them. Then, Joy tells her it's a good time to leave the house since things are intense. Violet returns to her room, cradles Madeline, and reassures the doll that she'll fix everything. Meanwhile, Joy discovers Michael's jacket and her best friend's lie that her boyfriend hasn't been in the house, so she leaves to find him. On the other hand, Yvonne arrives home and confronts Violet about Gwen since they already talked about what happened. The younger woman confesses that she's jealous, so Yvonne also admits that it's Rebecca he can't get over with, not Catherine, and Violet looks so much like her mother. The woman proclaims that she won't let him leave her as he did to her mom, and they share a kiss. That evening, Joy returns home and finds the flowers Yvonne bought to lighten her spirits. Then, she receives a call from Michael's father informing her of his son's demise, with the possibility of someone behind it. She looks for her dad to seek comfort, but when she opens the door, she sees her father tied to the bed with Violet in her night job attire. Appalled, Joy immediately leaves the room while Yvonne regrets his actions. Therefore, he throws Violet out of the house, but the woman refuses to have the same fate as her mom, so she repeats that she won't let Yvonne leave her. Despite her sharp stares at the man, Yvonne commands her to leave the house before walking away. Yvonne enters his room, but his chest suddenly aches, so he grabs the phone to call for help. However, the electricity in the house shuts down due to Violet. He hurries to his car for the phone, but it doesn't work. Unfortunately, he faints in the driver's seat, so Violet takes the chance to turn on the engine to poison him with carbon monoxide. Simultaneously, Joy returns home and finds the mansion without electricity, so she goes to the fuse box and tries to fix it. However, she drops a plug fuse, and while looking for it, she discovers Mrs. B's lifeless body. Shocked, she heads to the telephone to call for help, but discovers that the phone isn't working. Then, she heads upstairs and hears her music box, so she enters the room, where she sees the medicines and syringes used on Michael. Suddenly, Violet appears behind her and commands her to wear a dress, to which she complies. The deranged woman insists on having a tea party with her, similar to what they did as children. When Joy inquires about Michael, Violet tells her she's lucky to have a sister like her. Then, Violet pushes her to drink the tea while reassuring her that she'll cradle her as the poison kicks in. Then she'll drink too, and hold Joy's hand as they lay side by side. Joy pretends to drink it before splashing the tea on Violet's face and running away. However, the deranged woman catches her, and they grapple with each other, accidentally knocking over Madeline. Upon seeing the broken doll, Violet becomes angrier and charges at Joy with all her might. Joy exits the room and stops by the staircase to call for help. Violet pursues her and Joy evades the attack, making the deranged woman lose balance by the edge of the stairs. Joy grabs her necklace to save her and tells her to hold her hand, but the pearl necklace snaps and Violet falls down the stairs to her demise. Joy returns to her room to fix her things, but she realizes there's no reason to keep everything perfect, so she pushes everything out of the dresser. She opens the front door, breathing a sigh of relief as her new life begins.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.